Hello and welcome back to hour 4 of 24 Hours of Rare. I hope that you've enjoyed the content this morning. We kicked off with from the UK with Rare Revolution, and then we heard a little bit about some stuff from Peru and what is going on with Hunter syndrome there. And now we're going to move into talk about the Timothy Syndrome Alliance, which is based out of the UK. So we're going to be watching a few videos here. I'm going to share my screen again and find out about Timothy Syndrome and what it is about.
Calvin's always loved doodling. Ever since his formative years when he was growing up, he loved the idea of putting things down onto paper or organizing cars or objects into lines or colors or shapes to try and articulate what he doesn't usually say, and doodling's a vital part of that communication for Calvin.
Calvin didn't speak until he was in his first year at primary school, when we had our 2-year health visitor come over. We knew there was a problem. He wasn't walking, he wasn't sitting up properly, and he wasn't vocalizing.
Well, he loved articulating. He would express himself, but it was very much non-verbal. So he would use sign language or point or use grunts or consonants to try and get across what it was he wanted to do.
Do you remember the sign for toy car? Didn't you?
He didn't do so well at standard school. They were really kind. They tried everything they could to include him. Calvin would sit down with his homework and we'd look at it, look at each other, look at Calvin. Calvin would put his fingers in his mouth and his eyes would widen and he'd shrug. And that was pretty much how school days went.
He wasn't showing autism, but he was showing something. He wasn't showing his ADHD, but he was something. You just know that something isn't right.
It was that not knowing bit that was the hardest bit. But there was no support for it because there was no one could pigeonhole it and no one could say this is what was wrong with him. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how to react or what to do to make Calvin's life as productive or as easy as possible. What we got was a bunch of specialists in lots of different departments saying, no, that must be a heart thing, or no, that must be a brain thing. I suggest you go here next. And so we were bounced from pillar to post, essentially. And that's what life is like for a child with no diagnosis that clearly has challenges at school and in his personal life as well.
The letter that came from the geneticist that said Calvin had a change in their gene, DACNA1C. This was the first time we knew we were dealing with a genetic problem, and it was the first time that the heart had been mentioned. Without the genetic investigations that happened, I don't think we'd have ever found out what was going on with Calvin. We had absolutely no choice but to become experts in our own situation. We have to become advocates for our own kids. I mean, this is our son. This is our son in a file. This is from
a file. We've got 4.
From 4 files from when he had his 2-year check that started the whole investigation to the present day, and I you know, the last one's full.
And they start actually with interesting letters saying, "Don't worry, I'm sure everything will be all right. There's probably just a bit of a speech delay." All the way through to where we are now, which is, well, it's a diagnosis of sorts, but it's another step down the road.
I have Timothy Syndrome. It is a rare multi-system disorder caused by genetic changes in the L-type calcium channel gene, CACNA1C. There are around 43 patients in the world often children with Timothy syndrome presents major health concerns, which can include heartbeat problems, brain development delays, joints of fingers and toes, weak immune system, low blood sugar, tummy and dental problems, plus more besides.
Point of diagnosis is a bit of a blow. It's although it's an answer, it's not necessarily one you'd want to receive. And we decided early on after this diagnosis that we looked at, we said, knowledge is power.
Mummy and Daddy found a Facebook group with other families, just like ours.
We found friendship and information and support and a place to talk openly about everything that we've been through.
It made a big difference, didn't it? Because essentially we were on our own. Even after we had a diagnosis of sorts, we were still on our own because there was no one else that had experience of this. We've done so much work on it now that we tend to know more about the syndrome and the physical effects and the symptoms that present themselves every day than any doctor does, because no one studies this particular aspect of genetic change, at least not in its final form, which in this case is Calvin. We didn't know what was going to happen to Calvin, and we still don't. In fact, the fact that so many children die, but Calvin is still here, gives us hope every day, which is fantastic. But going by the mantra of knowledge is power, we have to try and find more and more of it, and build answers and solutions, not just for Calvin, but for the other children too, and the ones that are coming after him.
We are going to find some answers, and that all began with our first family day in Cardiff.
Coming to the family day here in Cardiff, just it's connection with other people, it's hope, family, extended family, people who are going through the same thing, people who have children with Timothy syndrome, who have gone through different journeys, but you can still relate to them. It's a relief to know you're not alone.
With the charity, I think, first of all, I was like, what would I really want? And I thought, well, I want answers. I thought, how do you go about getting the answers? And that is research. That is doctors in the UK knowing that this condition isn't just Timothy syndrome. It's like a spectrum, because the kids can be so different, but yet so alike. And I think the research part goes such a long way to doctors having a better understanding. There's been a lot of emotions this weekend. They've been really high when you first meet somebody and you're like, that's somebody else I can speak to. And then suddenly realising, I think I'm one of the lucky ones.
When you're told that your child is going to be, you know, you're not outlive your child, it's like the worst fear ever, isn't it? I mean, every day counts for these kids. So this weekend has helped us so much, and it will do, because we're all coming together. And even though all of our children have the same condition, they are also different in so many ways.
So meeting the other children as well is nice, you know, to see them getting older and growing due to the awareness and the new information that we have now. That's nice to be a part of, yeah. If you can just cope 2 days with this, you're amazing already. It's a lot to accept as a parent that your child's got a life-limiting condition. So if you're getting up every day and fighting after knowing that, then you're just amazing anyway, aren't you? You know?
Having a group of people all pushing together to get answers and to drive potentially more research, etc. I think it's more heads together, without a doubt, definitely helps, I think. And I think we all bring different parts of that jigsaw puzzle probably together. Well, I think the collaborative effort is absolutely wonderful. This is a very rare disease. So we're just going to be helped by the doctors who see these kids. We have a lot to do to educate the medical community that this is really out there and for them to be specifically looking for it so that we can save these babies, first and foremost.
If you are a family affected by Timothy Syndrome or medical professional caring for a child with this condition and would like to find out more, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. We are stronger together. It's good to know you're not alone.
Hey,
Hi.
I'm COVID-19.
I know. There's no missing you at the moment. I'm Timothy Syndrome.
Never heard of you.
That's not surprising. There's less than 100 known cases of Timothy Syndrome in the world.
So you're one of the 7,000 rare diseases then?
Yep. Plus, there's around 250 new rare diseases identified every year. So actually, as a group,
well, I think what makes this school different is the fact that you feel kind of part of a family when you go to Mitchell. Feeling like you're included and you're respected. I feel treated like an individual, but then at the same time, I feel part of something bigger. Yes, we're a family. I think the thing that makes us so different is the variety of things that don't seem like schoolwork. Like we all get a chance to go out and play out and learn outdoors.
I have to say, this is a lovely place.
diagnosis often takes between 5 to 15 years. 40% of patients are misdiagnosed. Known as the diagnostic odyssey. Sounds obvious, especially to you, COVID. Being diagnosed early can make the difference between life and death.
They have already developed a treatment for me, a vaccine. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be wiped out soon.
It's all happened so fast for you. Only 5% of rare diseases have an approved treatment, so that's around 400 diseases. At the current rate, it'll be 2,000 years before there are treatments for all rare diseases.
So, Timothy Syndrome doesn't have a treatment?
No, there is no cure for Timothy Syndrome. Sadly, 30% of those with a rare disease die before their 5th birthday. When at least 300 million people worldwide are affected by a rare disease, that's a terrifying statistic.
You're telling me that even when I'm gone, all of you lot will still be here?
I'm afraid so. But in a way, you have given the world a taste of what it's like to live with a rare disease.
Thanks to you, there's been frustration.
There's been fear and uncertainty.
There's been isolation and anxiety.
There's been emotional exhaustion.
But there's also been hope.
Hope born from a collective response.
not only from researchers, but also policymakers.
And that's what we're asking for.
If you care about rare, then share. Share this video, have a conversation, and go to these websites to learn more.
I hope you enjoyed those two videos. The first one was obviously Calvin's story and talking about his journey right now through his experience with the Timothy Syndrome. And then the second one is a little bit about the COVID and how that is impacted from, just a standpoint of where COVID is impacting the globe and what is happening with it in Timothy Syndrome as well. Now we're going to share a video that was given to us by Open Health and talking about for the 24 hours of rare. So give me just a moment to cue it up, please.
Hello, I'm Rhian Kiley and I'm an Associate Director in the Evidence and Access Practice at Open Health. I help design and implement studies to demonstrate the burden of rare disease on patients and their families and the value of new therapies. I am passionate about working in rare disease because from both my personal and professional experience, I have insight into how new therapies offer patients with rare disease hope for a more certain future and in some cases a cure. Through my work at Open Health, I am privileged to play a part in making treatments for rare disease accessible to patients to ensure they can benefit from the advances in medicine that have potential to make a huge impact on their lives.
I want to thank you for your time here that you've spent here in this session. If you will go out to the networking lounge, there will be a Timothy Syndrome networking lounge. You'll have an opportunity to visit with others, ask questions, mingle, and network. Our next hour that is coming up, we'll hear from Canada as they talk about a daughter that will be featured there that has a condition called GBS. Looking forward to seeing you there, and thank you.